Hello, everyone. So, our topic of discussion for today is enhancing memory. So, firstly, let us understand what are mnemonics. Mnemonics are strategies for enhancing memory, for, in a way, improving our memory. So, whatever strategies we use to enhance our memory or to improve our memory, those strategies used are called mnemonics. And today we'll be actually discussing the two very important kinds of strategies under two very important headers. So, coming to firstly mnemonics using images. Here, of course, we are like making sure that the images are actually interacting, especially in case of anything that you wish to remember, and so two methods are there under mnemonics using images. So the first one is the keyword method, and in the keyword method basically it's very helpful in case of learning any foreign language, any new language, so keyword method is very helpful in that case. We're all sort of familiar with some basic English words, and pertaining to that, because we are familiar with those basic English words that we use in our day to day life, we can actually think of any English word, which will be used as the keyword. So basically, the English word will be used as the keyword here. So, and that English word will actually sound similar to the word of the foreign language, which you wish to learn. So for instance, let's say you wish to learn the Spanish word, which is peto, and peto actually means duck. For duck is an English word, and in Spanish it's called peto. And now you really want to learn this new word peto. So now you're going to look in for a similar kind of word in English with which you're trying to identify the Spanish word peto. So in English, any word closer to peto, let's say it's pot, close enough to peto. So I'm going to actually make pot, this English word, as my keyword. So pot becomes my keyword, and peto is the word, the Spanish word for duck, which I wish to learn. Now, once I've identified, and I've figured out that I want to sort of identify the word peto with the word, English word pot, pot becomes my keyword, and peto is the word that I wish to learn, which is of the foreign language. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to actually imagine these two words interacting. So I will probably, imagine, a duck literally maybe in a pot full of water, or maybe I will imagine a duck that probably will have a pot on top of its head, a kind of a story that I'll make up. I'm thinking of a duck. Why? Because my purpose is to learn the Spanish meaning of duck, which is peto, and that's close enough to the keyword, English keyword pot. So that's why I sort of made up this story. This where I'm trying to link these images, I'm trying to interact these images, and by making sure that they're actually interacting, I'm visualizing, and this will help me to retain whatever I sort of learn, and therefore I can strengthen my memory. I can basically improve my memory. Now, moving on to the next method, we have the next method, which is, of course, the method of Loki, you know. So, in case of this method, this is also quite interesting method. Again, this comes under mnemonics using images. What I'm trying to do here is I'm basically trying to remember, objects that I've sort of mentally arranged, like in a way in the form of visual images. So I wish to remember certain objects in the form of visual images. And so let's say, whenever I want to sort of remember any piece of information, especially the items in a serial order, so that I don't forget, especially when we go out to buy stuff, or we go to a grocery store, we want to just be very sure of what do I really want to buy, or maybe I want to get hands on to a new recipe, something that I want to learn how to make. So I just want to be very sure of the serial order. So this method is quite applicable for that. So basically, what how this particular method works is, you need to firstly visualize objects, and not just the objects, but like their places, and in a particular specific sequence, and whatever you're trying to memorize, just let's make sure that we're able to sort of link, we're able to sort of connect or associate those like objects, to their physical locations as well. So for instance, suppose you want to remember, bread, eggs, tomatoes, soap. You want to remember these couple of 4 5 things on your way, to the market area. So, of course, you're just going to imagine that there is a loaf of bread, and there are eggs placed in your kitchen, then tomatoes are kept on the table, and of course, soap is in the bathroom. So, you're just trying to make a mental walk. So, you're just going to imagine that I'm heading towards, to my kitchen. When I enter, there is a loaf of bread which is lying, like next to the set of, plates. Then I go a little more ahead. Then, of course, I'm going to see some eggs which are lying in the fridge. I come out and then I go straight into the washroom where I see my, soap, and then I come out again and then I see, like a basket of tomatoes, which are lying on the table. So I'm just trying to create a mental walk, and this mental walk is nothing but my visualization, where I'm trying to associate these objects with their physical locations. So I'm just trying to form a link, a connect, and so a mental walk which helps me to understand where are the things kept, right from my kitchen to my washroom, and I'm able to this way recall all the items, especially when I'm going to shop something in a nice serial order, in a sequence. So I'll just imagine that I'm first going to the kitchen. There I see, a loaf of bread which is kept right next to the set of plates. Then I go slightly ahead, there's fridge. I open it and I'm able to get my eggs. From there, I move to the washroom. I'm able to fetch soap, and then when I come out of the washroom, I see the table and there's a basket of tomatoes lying. So I'm just trying to create this mental walk, right from my kitchen to my bathroom to the table, and this sort of helps me to purchase items, to remember items, to recall them faster in a proper serial order, in a sequence. So this is the method of Loki, and it is helpful in many other things as well. Like I said, when you have to even remember a recipe, so this is sort of really helpful, because here we are creating an association, of course, amongst the objects along with their locations. So that makes it even more simpler, even more easier. Then, of course, coming to the next set of mnemonics, which very clearly talks about a couple of other areas. So of course, in terms of mnemonics using organization, it helps you to sort of like organize everything, and like the kind of framework that you come up with, while doing this organization, it makes the framework makes it even more easier to retrieve, so coming to chunking first, which we've already discussed earlier. So how the several smaller units probably can be combined, to form larger chunks, and of course, this kind of method of chunking, yes, it is important to increase the capacity of short term memory, but of course, chunking is also very helpful to improve the memory, and it's quite helpful to enhance, to improve your memory. So that's what happens in chunking, and we have talked about chunking before. So moving on, we have the next one, which actually talks about, the first letter technique. And in case of first letter technique, what happens is that you basically need to pick up the first letter of each word that you wish to remember, and then you need to arrange them to form another word or maybe even a sentence. So if you had to maybe remember the colors of rainbow, and many a times we get confused, we're not able to remember, or we just forget the letters, or probably even if we remember the letter, it's hard to recall the particular color. So this is something which is a very common one, and we've been hearing this time and again. So the first letter technique in case of remembering the colors of the rainbow would be, like if we can just make a word by getting all the first letters, from each color. So from the, let's say, from the color violet, I get the letter V. From the color indigo, I get the letter I. From the color blue, I get the letter B. From the color green, I get the letter G. From the color yellow, I get the letter Y. From the color orange, I get the letter O. And from the color red, I get the letter R. When I put all these letters together, every first letter of the color, when I put it together, it's going to form another word which is called the Vibgyor. And I think just by, if you can just remember the word Vibgyor, every time when we go back to this word Vibgyor, it'll be so easy for us to get all the colors of the rainbow, on our tips. And there's no way that we'll actually forget it. So, this is what essentially happens in the first letter technique. Moving on, we have the next slide, and this slide is actually talking about the deep level processing. So, here, of course, from the deep level processing to, of course, minimizing interference and giving ourselves enough retrieval cues, these three areas are basically focusing a lot on, like a comprehensive approach, and in this case, there were a lot of other areas, that were suggested by psychologists, and how we can really apply the knowledge, about memory processes to the task of memory improvement, and there have been a few suggestions. So we're going to talk about these three suggestions given, like a very comprehensive approach, So when we talk about engaging in a deep level processing, what happens is, like deep level processing is like how we can basically cross question ourselves, asking as many questions related to the information as possible, and when we continue to cross question, ask too many questions, we are basically getting into its meaning, we are getting into its or we are trying to analyze or examine its relationship, probably with the facts that already exist in our brain. So it's like a nice way of churning and cross questioning. So that's what happens in deep level processing. So the benefit of this is that whatever new information that you're trying to gather, it's actually going to become a part of your already existing information or knowledge. And this way it'll be always there, and and it'll always stay with you, and your memory will enhance, it'll improve. So definitely the information is able to form associations with the already existing information. So the new information is able to form associations with the already existing information. A connection, a link is being formed because of this the churning, because of the cross questioning, because of this, what we call the deep level processing. We're getting into its meaning, we're trying to link the facts. So, this cross questioning is going to be amazing. So, this is deep level processing. Then, moving on, we have the next slide, and this very clearly talks about, like how we can minimize the interference. So interference that I as it is that it is caused because when we're trying to memorize two similar topics, overlapping takes place. Many a times it happens with children that they actually are learning two units that are so similar, pertaining to any subject. They could be learning two topics which are having a lot of similarities, probably. And so when they are actually done with the learning of those units or chapters that have sort of some sort of similarity, or they are having a lot of similar topics, overlapping takes place. And at the time of retrieval, maybe what they want, maybe they are not able to retrieve that, and instead they probably can retrieve another topic that is slightly similar. So there also interference comes into place. So what's important is that we shouldn't like learn similar materials in a sequence, and we must try and study in a way that we just probably can pick up some other subject that's a little unrelated to the previous one, and or maybe we can give ourselves some rest, some break in between, and then pick up a similar topic. Either we can uh, take up something altogether different, or we can give ourselves a break and move on to something similar. So if we just do two similar topics back to back, like back to back, yes, overlapping can take place, and because of interference, we probably will not be able to retrieve the kind of information that we are looking for. And so instead of doing similar topics back to back, we can give ourselves maybe some rest or some kind of break in between, or we can just pick up some other topic that's not similar, it's absolutely unrelated. So that can probably help us to minimize, so to say, the interference. Moving on, of course, to the last topic, which of course talks about the retrieval. And retrieval cues are very important, and we must be able to give ourselves enough of these retrieval cues. And how we can really look for retrieval cues even in our study material is so important. I think it'll make the study material more interesting, and will help us to always remember whatever we are studying. And these cues can make it so easy to remember the content that you are like studying or preparing. And so yeah, we must know how we can have our own little cues, hints, and it's very important to give ourselves enough of those cues and really, really make our study very, very interesting and something that will stay with us for the longest time. So with this, we come to an end of the topic. So thank you so much.